أشراف مطلوب وطالبه لله أكرام من يمشي على قدم. العلم نور مبين يستضيء به أهل السعادات والجهال في الظلم.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين. أما بعد. So last week we started revising from the beginning, and this week inshallah we'll continue with the revision. So I believe we stopped at Haqiqa wal Majaz. That's where we stopped at with the revision. We'll carry on with that, and we'll carry on with Al-Amr, and we'll stop off at Al-Nahi today. And on that note, we should be able to finish all of the muqarrar, what we studied previously in the other center. Then inshallah, in about 3 weeks, because obviously we've got the summer dawra coming up, in about 3 weeks we'll carry on and we'll resume from Al-Am. So for now, for the first 45 minutes or so, 15 minutes, I want you to close your books and just concentrate on what is written on the board. I am going to summarize the lesson on the board. With Majaz, or Kalam, and Al-Amr, and Al-Nahi. Once I finish summarizing it on the board, then we're going to read the matan. It makes it easier that way. طيب. Last week, we studied Kalam. Like, what did we study from Kalam? From what aspect? Linguistically, did we not study Kalam? Something like Insha and Khabar. What was Insha? Insha is that which you can't say to the person, you're lying or you're telling the truth. Example, 1 second. Example. Would you be able to put AC on, please? Say it again. Naam. When you tell someone to stand up, that person can't say to you, you're lying or you're telling the truth, because you've commanded him with something. What else did we say kalam is in, sisters? Khabar. Naam. And what is khabar? Naam. Khabar is that which you can say it is kadib, it is true, or it is false. For example, Ja'a Muhammad. If someone says, Ja'a Muhammad just came in, طيب, you can say to me, La kadhabt, he didn't just come in. That was Amr, or that was Yusuf that came in. طيب. That was one i'tibar, or one aspect of looking at kalam. Today, we're going to start with another aspect of kalam, or from another angle. The other angle is what is known as Haqiqa and Majaz. Haqiqa and Majaz. And the reason why this is in Usul al-Fiqh is because it is from wordings, it is from those things that words show. And Usul al-Fiqh deals with the wordings of the Kitab, the Sunnah, and the people in general. طيب. So the first is al-Haqiqa. Al-Haqiqa, the meaning of it is al-lafz, the word, al-musta'mal, that is used, the word that is used, فِيمَا وُضِعَ لَهُ, the word that is used in a way that it was originally set down or laid down in the religion, in the Arabic language. So al-kalam, the first type is haqiqa. It is the real or the realistic or a real use or original use of this specific word. For example, if we use the word bayt, what does bayt mean? In Arabic, house. What does rajul mean? What does a rajul mean in the Arabic language? A man, a male species, that's what it means. Asad, what does that mean in the Arabic language? A lion. So that is the meaning behind al-haqiqa. You're using a word in a way that it was put down in the Arabic language. It was originally used in the Arabic language. طيب? Is that understood? It is of 3 types. The Shaykh is going to mention that it is of 3 types, or he mentions that it is of 3 types. Lughawiyya, شرعية and عرفية. The first is لغوية. لغوية simply means using a word in its correct place, in its correct context, according to the language. An example, Asad. What is the linguistical meaning of Asad in the Arabic language? A lion. So if you say, ذهبت إلى الغابة, I went to the forest, ورأيت أسدا, and I saw an Asad, what meaning do you understand from that? That I saw what? A lion, the predator that we know of. So I have used that word in a way that it is normally used in the Arabic language. And that is called what? حقيقة لغوية. Asad. مثلا, I say to you, دخلت البيت. I entered into the house. The word that I have used of bait, for bait, that is what? What does it mean? A house, a place where people rest and live. That is the original usage of bait in the Arabic language. Therefore, that is a haqiqah, lugha, lughawiyya. I've used the Arabic context, the Arabic word, in its linguistical use. In its linguistical usage. Is that understood? The second meaning is lugha or haqiqah shar'iyya. Haqiqah shar'iyya. Haqiqah shar'iyya means to use a word. Obviously, we're speaking Arabic. Let's say you're speaking Arabic in the Quran or in the Sunnah or in the Sharia, you're speaking Arabic. Therefore, you use a word in reality as it's meant to be used, but you're using it in a way, in a haqiqah shar'iyya. You're using that Arabic word in a from a Shari'i perspective. And you've all seen a lot of the times we say what? يعني حج معناه لغة معناه اصطلاحا معناه اصطلاحا. So in other words, this first one is لغة. Whenever you see لغة in the books, and every masala you're studying, you often find الصلاة لغة, الدعاء. الزكاة لغة linguistically means النماء. طيب? And then what's the next way that you see it, the terminology? اصطلاحا. So this is where the istilah comes in. اصطلاحا. So you say الصلاة اصطلاحا is عبادة مخصوصة كذا وكذا مفتتحة بالتكبير مختتمة بالتسليم and so on. As you see in مثلا, go back to Manhaj al-Salikin later on and look into the chapter of zakah or salah, and you will find lughawiyya kada, it means that. Shar'iyya, it means kada. For example, I say to you, sallaytu as-salata. Or I say to you, khalas, I say to you, hal sallayta, have you prayed? What understanding do you take from that? Have you prayed one of the 5 daily prayers? You say to your child or you say to your friend, Hal Salayta. The meaning that you mean and the meaning they understand is, have you prayed one of the 5 daily prayers? Sah? Or any of the prayers? Like in what prayer is that? The salah that we say Allahu Akbar, that has a ruku', that has sujood. Is that understood? So what way have you used this word now? Although it's a haqiqah, you've used it in its correct place, but what usage? From what perspective, sisters? Shari'i. From what perspective? From Shari'i. طيب. مثلا, someone can't say to you now, Salli lillah. They can't say, if they say to you, Salli lillah, pray to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, what are you going to do? Are you going to say Allahu Akbar and pray, or are you going to say Allahumma ghfirli warhamni wahdini? Are you going to what? La. If you're talking about the Shari'i perspective, the Shari'i usage of this word, Salli means what? Pray. Allahu Akbar. The salah that we know of. So that is the difference between these two. Is that understood? Any questions on that so far? طيب. So linguistically means when you use a language, how it was originally used in the Arabic language. Shari'i means how it is used in the Sharia of Islam, مثلا, according to the books of Fiqh or Usul or Hadith and so on. If I give you another example, as-sunnah, linguistically, what does it mean? A-tariqah. Linguistically, as-sunnah means tariqah, path. Lakin sunnah in the shari'i sense, what does it mean? The sunnah of the Messenger sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Khalas. The third meaning of haqiqat al-kalam is urfiyya. Urfiyya means to use a word in a way that is more specific than the linguistical usage and the usage of the sharia. Urfi meaning the custom of the people. They know this word to mean a certain thing. If I give you an example, something that you probably will understand. An oyster, and I mentioned this last time when we were studying. Oyster. If I say to you, give me an oyster now, what are you going to do? You're going to give me the blue cards, huh? Why are you going to give me the blue card when oyster means something else in the English language? Because urfan, the custom is that, the norm is that you use what? That you use, the oyster is used to refer to the card that you use to travel on public transport. Sah? Understood. Taib. So someone can't say to you now, if you give someone an oyster, if they say to give you an oyster and they give you an animal, khalas, that is the incorrect usage of that word. So that is the meaning of urfi. And that urfi meaning or usage, it changes from time to time. It changes from time to time and place to place. Mathalan, ad-dar, in some places refers to a home, a building, a structure. هذا داري, a bayti, meaning bayti. Like in some places, in some countries, dar refers to a room within the house. Is that understood? طيب. What is the fa'idah of knowing this lughatan, shar'an, urfan? What is the fa'idah of knowing it? Sorry, afwan. Let me just give you another example of urfi. As-safar. As-safar, as you know, the scholars differ on what is considered a safar. Some say that which is over a certain mileage, certain number of miles. And some say it goes back to the what? To the urf. So safar can also be used here. طيب. What is the benefit of knowing this? The benefit of knowing this, Fadl Mahdi. No, it is a question. What is the benefit of knowing this? To understand certain words. Now, to understand the context of a hadith or a verse or even in the statements of the people. Remember when we were studying qada, the qadi, the judge, he's listening to people's disputes. So he's going to base his judgment on whatever is considered the norm according to them. Is that understood? طيب. So that is the benefit. So if you're reading a book on Arabic, adab, poetry and so on, you're going to understand it to be what? The linguistical meaning of that particular word. If you're reading a book of fiqh, usul fiqh, hadith, aqidah, and you come across a word, you're going to understand it in the what? Shari'i perspective. And so on, goes for urf. طيب. The next is al-majaz. The next usage of kalam is majaz. طيب. Majaz means al-lafz al-musta'mal fi ghayri. Underline that later on. Later on, not now, pay attention. Close your books. I'm going to explain the book and then we're going to go into the book. I'm going to explain or summarize it on here and then we're going to go into it. Al-lafz al-musta'mal, it is the word that is used fi ghayri ma wudi'a lahu. It is using a word in a way, in a usage that it wasn't originally set for, that it wasn't originally there for. It wasn't laid down for that usage. Like in throughout time, it moved from this meaning to a different meaning. طيب. For example, and it has three types, and the Shaykh is going to mention it in the book: isti'ara, mursal, and aqli. Lakin, without even going into the different types of majaz, majaz simply means you have a word, an Arabic word, and you are using it in a way that it is not used linguistically. If I say to you, ذهبت إلى الغابة ورأيت أسدا, I went to the forest and I saw an asad, what are you going to understand from that? That I saw a proper lion. طيب. ذهبت إلى المسجد ورأيت أسدا يخطب. I went to the masjid ورأيت and I saw أسدا, a lion, يخطب, giving a khutbah. What do you understand from that? What do I mean asad? Yani, do I mean that big animal predator giving a khutbah on a Friday? What do I mean? A man who is delivering a khutbah, a very powerful khutbah. Sah? Or if I say fulanun asadun, this person is an asad. This person is a lion. What usage of lion am I referring to here? Quwwah, strength or brave. Sah? Meaning fulan is a brave person. Because you're saying he's a lion. But I'm not saying he's a lion, literally, he's an animal. I'm saying he has taken one trait of the animal, and because of that one trait, I can call him an asad. And that one trait is usually what? Bravery. Because they say the lion is the king of the jungle. Therefore, if a person is a strong person, they call him what? A lion. So that is the usage of majaz. Another usage of majaz is if I say to you, mathalan, a lot of times you will see if a masjid is being built, or masjid or any other institute, and a certain person pays charity and he's the one that takes care of that, they say, Fulan built this masjid. صح? Like, مثلا, let's say we have a masjid let's say this is a masjid. And you say to someone, well, mashallah, Ahmed built this masjid. Ahmed could be an emir, could be a wealthy businessman and so on. I said he what? Built the masjid. Okay. Is that correct in itself? That if you wanted to look at it correctly, did Ahmed come, pick up the bricks and build the masjid from the foundations? No. Like, what do you understand from it? He contributed? He contributed in building it? Okay. Would you not understand from it that he funded it? He funded it. You would understand that he funded it, but he didn't come to the masjid. He's probably never even been to He's probably never been to the UK. Like, you can say he built the masjid. Why? Because majazan, that is isnad, aqliyan, you know that he did not what? Come and build the masjid. You meant that he took part in it. So the words are used in its haqiqah, fulan built a masjid. But the meaning behind it is what? You've attributed the action to him. Is that understood? In summary, that is the meaning behind majaz and haqiqah. Second point, shurud. Majaz has conditions. For you to say, رَأَيْتُ أَسَدًا يَخْطُبُ, طيب, رَأَيْتُ أَسَدًا. Or I say, فُلَانْ هُوَ أَسَدٌ. في الحقيقة هو أسد. If I say that, there has to be conditions. You have to have some sort of criterion when using these words. And that criterion is two things. There has to be a qarina, something pointing towards what I'm referring to, or supporting evidence, and alaqa, there has to be some sort of connection. For example, I said to you, رَأَيْتُ فُلَانِ يَخْطُبْ رَأَيْتُ أَسَدًا يَخْطُبْ, I saw a lion giving a khutbah. There are two things in this. There is alaqa, a qarina that shows I'm not referring to a proper lion. And that qarina is the fact that he's delivering a khutbah. An asad, he can't deliver a khutbah. He can't talk. And obviously he wouldn't be standing in front of people because he'd eat all of them. So there's a qarina supporting evidence that when I'm saying رَأَيْتُ أَسَدًا يَخْطُبُ, I'm not referring to a proper lion. That is the qarina. So my supporting evidence for saying that is the people and the fact that this person is giving a khutbah. But also there has to be alaqa. There has to be some sort of connection. There has to be something that connects the lion and the khatib. And that is what is called what? The trait that you've taken from the lion and you found it in this person, which is what? Brave and powerful. Is that understood? Unless you have this, your majaz is incorrect. Unless you have this, your majaz is incorrect. So someone can't say, and I mentioned this example last time, he can't say to his wife, Anti taliq, you are taliq. And then later on he says, لا لا خلاص I meant أنت فرس أو أنت جميلة. I didn't mean divorce. All I meant أنت جميلة وهذا مجاز, and that is مجاز. جميل مجاز for طلاق. Can you say that? لا. And there you find, or you can understand where many of the people of Ahl Bid'ah have been misguided, where they say استواء استولى أو وجاء ربك أي جاء أمر ربك جاء كذا. So they would do ta'wil and they would change the meaning and say that that is majaz. And that is the meaning is majaz, and this is the correct meaning. Is that understood? The last mas'ala is, do we find majaz in the Quran? Yes or no? The ulama have differed. Some say that there's majaz in the Arabic language, in the Quran and in the Sunnah. In the Arabic language and in the Quran and the Sunnah. That's number one. The second opinion is the total opposite to that. They say, there's no majaz. And every usage of the word is real. Every usage of the word is real because it depends on context. The third opinion is that there's majaz in the Arabic language, like not found in the Quran. There's no majaz in the Quran, like there's majaz in the Arabic language. Any questions on this, on majaz? Okay. Do the what? Do the ulama give? Majaz in the Quran. Did they give examples? نعم. They say واسأل القرية. مثلا واسأل القرية. What do you mean? يعني واسأل القرية. Ask the قرية. What قرية are we referring to? What does a قرية mean? Village, صح? Can a village talk back to you? لا, they say واسأل أهل القرية. So that is majaz بحذف. Majaz, and a word has been taken out. أي واسأل أهل القرية. طيب. So this is the summary of al-kalam حقيقة and majazan. Gone? حقيقة في ذلك السياق. نعم. So they're saying, no, there's no majaz in the Quran and the Arabic language. And the reason is because when I say to you, they say, when we say to you, مثلا رأيت أسدا أو فلان أسد. They say the Arabs know automatically that you're referring to what? That you're referring to a brave man. So they're saying the context of the word, the context of the sentence is what determines the usage of that word. So there's no majaz. Huh? مفهوم في السياق. نعم. So it is found in the siyaq. Yeah. إن إبراهيم كان أمة. Not necessarily for that example. إن إبراهيم كان أمة قانتا لله. Ummah here doesn't necessarily mean, it's not majaz, because ummah, the word itself has different usage in the Arabic language. It has different usage in the Arabic language. From them is the one you mentioned, or Ibrahim, ummah. Ibrahim was a ummah. Another usage is وَذَكَرَ بَعْدَ أُمَّةٍ in Surah to Yusuf. This person remembered after, this person remembered after, the person that was in the prison with Yusuf alayhi salam, وَذَكَرَ بَعْدَ أُمَّةٍ, he remembered after a time, after a certain period of time. There's other usages for that. What was it? Ummah nation, time. There's about 2 other usages for that as well. Huh? So here it can't be فعل ماضي. طيب. Yeah. One sec. Go on, say that again. The majority of the usuliyun, they say yes, there is majaz, but with those two conditions. There has to be a ilaqa, there has to be something connecting, and there has to be a ilaqa, a connection. Some of the scholars say that khilaf is lafzi. And they say the ones that refuse the existence of majaz, they do so in order to prevent Ahlul Bid'ah from coming in through that door. But then there's other scholars say, it is not only to prevent Ahlul Bid'ah from coming in that door, it is the fact that that door doesn't even exist in the first place. Majaz doesn't exist. طيب. The next mabhath, there's 3 masail that we need to study. Or 4. طيب. The next mabhath is amr. طيب. And from now on, we're going to be studying something which is called dalalatul alfaz. Dalalatul alfaz, which simply means the alfaz, the wordings that we use, what do they indicate? What do they point towards? Hence, we're going to see amr, a command. When you use a word that is a command, what does it mean? A nahi, a prohibition, when you prohibit someone from something, what does it mean? When we see a prohibition in the Quran and the Sunnah, what does it mean? Al-am, something which is general, and we're going to study that after the break, inshallah. Al-am, al-khas, am, something which is general, something which is khas. Al-mutlaq, something which is unrestricted. Ja'a talaba, all of the tulab. And al-muqayyad, something which is restricted. So for the next 3 lessons or so, or 4 lessons, we're going to be studying these things here. So we're going to start with al-amr today, and al-nahyi, bi-idhnillah. Is that understood so far? So al-amr comes into it where? It comes into it because that is the reason why we've been created. To follow the commandments of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. وَمَا خَلَقْتُ الْجِنَّ وَالْإِنسَ إِلَّا لِيَعْبُدُونَ. That's why Abdillah ibn Mas'ud said, radiyallahu anhu, if you hear, يَا أَيُّهَا الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا فَأَرْعِهَا سَمْعَكَ. Pay attention. Because it is either a goodness that you are being told to do, or a prohibition that you are being told to stay away from. So our whole religion is surrounded by commandments and prohibitions. By doing these commandments, a person enters into the Jannah of Allah Jalla wa Ala, and by doing the prohibitions of Allah, a person enters into the anger of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So that shows the importance of this mabhath. To the extent that some of the usuliyun, they actually start their book with this, the command. They start it with this, to show its importance. طيب, the meaning of it, or the ta'rif of it, قول يتضمن طلب الفعل على وجه الاستعلاء. قول يتضمن طلب الفعل على وجه الاستعلاء. طيب. قول, in general, whenever you see a definition in Arab, in Usul al-Fiqh or any other subject, the definition, it includes things and it excludes things. Includes things and excludes things. So first and foremost, the amr is something which is a qawl. It has to be a qawl. A word that you utter. It has to be something that is uttered. If it isn't, then that isn't a command. Even though you understand something from it. Mathalan, I say to you, or I say to you, or I say to you, for every one of these 3 gestures, you understood what I meant, right? Like in in Usul al-Fiqh that isn't considered as a command. So for a command, for an amr to be the amr that is considered in Usul al-Fiqh, whereby you're asked to do something, it has to be what? A what? A qawl. It has to be a statement. Qum, ittaqillah, wattaqu yawman turja'una. It has to be a word. It has to be something that is uttered. يتضمن ضلب الفعل. ضلب الفعل. It has to be a command that necessitates that you do an action. What does that exclude? النهي, a prohibition. Because a prohibition tells you to what? لا تفعل. لا تفعل, do not do. So it has to include, or point towards طلب الفعل, asking you to do a fi'l. صلوا كما رأيتموني أصلي وقوموا لله واركعوا مع الراكعين. See, all of these commands, they're what? They're statements, and they all necessitate that you do what? An action. So with that, what goes out? نعم, a nahi. The last part, على وجه الاستعلاء, meaning it has to be this command. It is only called a command if it comes from a higher authority. مثلا in the Quran and the Sunnah, it comes from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, or the Messenger sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Or when we're talking about the people, it comes from a father to his what? Child. Or a teacher to a student. Or a master to a slave. It has to come downwards. Lakin, if it's going upwards, مثلا, you're asking Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You're asking Allah Jalla wa ala. If you're asking Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, what are you going to say? That it is a command. Allahumma ghfirli, or ighfirli. Ighfirli. Just by those words, it is a command. Like, is that considered a command according to what we're studying here? La, because you're not commanding Allah Jalla wa ala. You're not commanding Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So that is with regards to the Quran and the Sunnah. It is a dua. Also, if you're asking someone who is your friend or zamil, a peer of yours, colleague, then that is called iltimas. They call it iltimas. So you're not commanding them to do, give me a pen, pass me the book and so on. You're not exactly commanding them. Is that understood? So that is the meaning of a command basically in the Sharia. It has to be a statement that entails that you do something and by way of high authority. That's the first mas'ala. The next mas'ala is, it has a siyagh, it has a form. So not everything can be considered a command. I acknowledge and you acknowledge and everyone acknowledges that there's a command in the Quran and the Sunnah, right? طيب. Like, how do we find that command in the Quran and the Sunnah? مثلا, how many surahs are there in the Quran? 114. How many ahadith are there? Tons of ahadith. So does every hadith point towards a command? لا. مثلا, ضحك النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم. The Messenger صلى الله عليه وسلم laughed. Does that point towards an action? A command from the Prophet صلى الله عليه وسلم? لا. Therefore, now that we acknowledge that there's a command in the Quran and the Sunnah, we have to be able to sift it out. We have to be able to differentiate. That is a command and that isn't a command. Is that understood? And the scholars mention that there are a lot of siyagh. Lakin, from the most important one, or from ones, is fi'l amr. Fi'l amr, as you know in Arabic, for those of you that have studied nahu, fi'l is of how many types? Al-af'alu thalatha. What are they? Fi'l amr, she started the last one. Fi'l madi. ذهب. ذهب. فعل مضارع. يذهب. He goes. And فعل أمر. اذهب أنت. صح? It is of these three. So for a command, for فعل أمر, for the first command or the first form that it takes is if it is in the form of a fi'l amr. And that is probably the easiest to understand. وَافْعَلُوا الْخَيْرِ وَقُولُوا لِلَّهِ قَوْلًا وَقُولُوا لِلَّهِ وقولوا قولا سديدا عفوا وقولوا قولا سديدا is a fi'l amr which means a command. And in the Arabic language, مثلا قم يا زيد. اقرأ يا عبد الله. اقرأ يا عبد الله. تعلم, learn. So these are the forms, or what the first form, which is that it is a fi'l amr. The second is ismu fi'l amr. Ismu fi'l amr is similar to the fi'l amr, like it just doesn't take its size. It doesn't take its signs, its alamat. مثلا حي على الصلاة. عليكم أنفسكم. حي على الصلاة عليكم أنفسكم. هلم إلينا. So they are af'al, they are a command. They have the meaning of a fi'l amr, like they don't take the signs of it. They don't take the signs of it. You'll find in Arabic, for example, صح, صح, be quiet, for example. طيب. The next is al-masdar al-na'ib an al-fi'l. There's other examples. Remember this note that I gave you, or these notes? There's a lot of examples in that. So, for example, here, you've got the sigha, and then you've got the example. Which one will be on? Al-masdar al-na'ib an al-fi'l. فإذا لقيتم الذين كفروا فضرب رقاب. أي اضربوا أعناقهم. أي chop their necks off. فضربوا الرقاب. فتحرير رقبة. تحرير is a masdar, like it takes the position of the fi'l amr. طيب, so that is al-masdar al-na'ib an al-fi'l. And you've got the examples here. So obviously, I'm only doing a summary now. Then you've got al-fi'l mudari' al-maqrun bil-lam. Al-fi'l or fi'l mudari', al-fi'l al-mudari' that has a lam. Like in that lam is one that has a sukoon, one that has a sukoon. مثلا مثلا قال جل وعلا وإذا كنت فيهم فأقمت لهم الصلاة فلتقم طائفة منهم معك. فلتقم. See this lam, the lam that is being referred to has a what? Has a sukoon. So the fi'l mudari' that is considered a command is only the fi'l mudari' that has the lam that is sukoon. Another example is مثلا ولتأتي فليكونوا فإذا سجدوا فليكونوا not فليكونوا أو فليكون لا فليكونوا أو من ورائكم ولتأتي طائفة أخرى ولتأتي. It's got what? That lam has got what? A sukoon. Also طائفة أخرى لم يصلوا فليصلوا. So this lam shows that if it goes into a fi'l mudari', this fi'l, what is it? Mudari' or madi? Mudari' is something that is taking place now and will take place in the future. طيب. This action, فلتقم. تقم, it is what? A command. طبعا a command takes place when? نعم. طيب. فلتقم فليضربوا أو فليصلوا. فلتقم وليأخذوا وليكونوا. طيب. And the last one is أمر. إن الله يأمركم أن تؤدوا الأمانات. إن الله يأمركم. إن الله يأمركم. Or the Messenger صلى الله عليه وسلم said, لولا أن أشق على أمتي لا أمرتهم بالسواك عند كل الصلاة. لولا أن أشق على أمتي. If it wasn't difficult upon my ummah, I would have commanded them to what? To use the siwak with every wudu, in another hadith, in every salah. Again, because of the difficulty, the Prophet ﷺ did not. So amara, the word amara. طيب. So these are the signs that are to point towards a fi'l or point towards a command. You guys gave me homework. I've still got it, inshallah. I will mark it and I'll give it back to you. Believe it or not, you did homework on this. Probably forgotten. Yeah? So once I mark it, I'll bring it with me, inshallah. Any questions on the siyah? Does it always have? Has it always got fa? لا, not necessarily. وَلْيَطَّوَّفُوا بِالْبَيْتِ الْعَتِيقِ وَلْيَطَّوَّفُوا بِالْبَيْتِ الْعَتِيقِ doesn't always have a fa. Doesn't always have a fa. Any questions? Going once, going twice? لا, according to this definition, it has to be something which is a statement. طبعا, obviously, if it's in the Quran, it is as if it is spoken. It is spoken. Spoken by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Spoken by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The Ash'ari won't say it is qawl. Because of the aqidah that kalam, speech, is nafsi. It is within a person. It is within a person. طيب, any questions on on the sigha? طيب. The third mas'ala, al-amr al-mutlaq yaqtadi al-wujub. Al-amr al-mutlaq yaqtadi al-wujub. That's one of the other masail that the Shaykh is going to mention in the book. And this means, and this is one of the most important masail in the in Usul al-Fiqh in general. In the mabhath of al-amr, this is the most important mas'ala. Now, it is the most important mas'ala, this one and that one. Because obviously a lot of the times, now that you know the siyaq or the fi'l amr, how it comes, you can easily look in the Quran and the Sunnah, right? Khalas. Every fi'l amr, you get it out. Every fi'l amr, you get it out. Lakin, the khilaf of the fuqaha, a lot of times, comes down to this mas'ala. And this mas'ala means, if you ever come across al-amr, al-mutlaq, what does mutlaq mean? Mutlaq here means, there isn't anything to show whether it is wajib or not. So you don't know if it is a sunnah or if it is a wajib act. You know it's an amr, because what comes under an amr? What comes under command? Two things of the ahkam khamsa, the 5 rulings. 2 of them come under it. Wajib and sunnah. Al-amr is of 2. Al-wajib and as-sunnah. Or mustahab. So you're commanded to pray Salatul Witr, right? But is it wajib? La, you're commanded to pray Monday and fast Monday and Thursdays. Like, is it wajib? La, so, but it's still a command. So command is of these 2. Sah? Time. Like, if you ever come across an amr that is mutlaq. Mutlaq meaning there's no evidence to show whether it is sunnah or not. Or whether it is wajib or not. It's just a command. قُومُوا لِلَّهِ قَانِتِينَ. Just a command. What does that point towards? Does it mean that it is what? Wajib? Or does it mean that it is a sunnah? The fuqaha, they say, or the Sunniyun, al-amr al-mutlaq, or the jumhur, yaqtadi al-wujub. It necessitates that something is wajib. The asl is, if you come across a command in the Quran and the Sunnah, that command initially demonstrates that it is a command. You have to do it. It is wajib. Afwan, demonstrates something which is wajib. Is that understood? What does it mean? What is the benefit of knowing this? The benefit of knowing this is, if you come across a command, the asl is that you have to do it. But in order to say it is a sunnah and it is not wajib, you have to now bring in evidence. You have to give me evidence. Give me a command in the Quran or the Sunnah. Who can give me a command? وَأَقِيمُوا الصَّلَاةِ. وَأَقِيمُوا الصَّلَاةِ is a command. Is that understood? And it is on the first one. فعل أمر. صح? صح? طيب. What does that وَأَقِيمُوا الصَّلَاةِ mean? Allah is telling us to pray, right? جل وعلا. What does it mean? Is Allah telling us to pray by way of it being wajib, or does Allah tell us to pray by way of it being a sunnah? Wujub? Wujub? Huh? لا. Leave other dalail, other things. Just وقوموا what was that word? وأقيموا الصلاة. أقيموا الصلاة. That is a command. What does that show? It goes back to the khilaf here. If you say al-amr al-mutlaq yaqtadi al-wujub, that the amr, the naked amr, the command, the plain command, if you say it shows that it is wajib, then that command will be wajib. It will be wajib. Which means if I now turn around and say, no, it is a sunnah to pray. If I'm talking about witr now, I need to give evidence that it is not wajib. But if we say that, if we don't agree with this, then that means I need to bring evidence that salah is wajib. And this evidence is not enough for it. So the amr, the command that you come across in the Quran and the Sunnah, the very first thing that it points towards is that that command is wajib, you have to do it. That goes for every command. Every command in the Quran and Sunnah. Unless there's something that says otherwise. Unless there's something that says otherwise. Mathalan, the Prophet ﷺ said, they asked him what? تَوَضَّأُوا مِنْ لُحُومِ الْإِبِلِ تَوَضَّأُوا مِنْ لُحُومِ الْإِبِلِ. That is a what? Command saying, the Prophet ﷺ saying, تَوَضَّأُوا, make wudu if you eat camel's meat. That is a command. As you know, the fuqaha, they differ over this. Only the Hanabila say that camel's meat breaks your wudu. All of the others say what? That it doesn't break your wudu. Like in all of the others that say it doesn't break your wudu, do they have an issue with this? تَوَضَّأُوا مِنْ لُحُومِ الْإِبِلِ. Do they have an issue with that? Are they saying, like, we're not taking the words of the Prophet ﷺ? La. Are they saying that it doesn't show obligation? La, they're not saying that. They're saying, Sahih, you're right, Ya Hanabila, تَوَضَّأُوا مِنْ لُحُومِ الْإِبِلِ is a command, is the Messenger ﷺ has commanded us to do something. Lakin, there are other evidences that show otherwise. There are other evidences that show otherwise. Is that masala understood? The last masala is al-amr al-mutlaq yadull ala al-fawr. If you come across a command, a plain command in the Quran and the Sunnah, it means that you immediately have to do it. You immediately have to do it. And what is the fruit of this? The fruit is if you don't do it, you're sinning and you're blameworthy. And if you do it, then you are rewarded. Right. So the amr, that is the plain command, shows that something is wajib ala al-fawr immediately. Who can give me an example? One of the most popular examples for this mas'ala? Hajj. Naam. Hajj. So when Hajj became wajib, وَلِلَّهِ عَلَى النَّاسِ حِجُّ الْبَيْتِ. Ala is obviously one of those words that shows something is wajib. Now that we acknowledge Hajj is wajib, you all understand Hajj is wajib, sah? طيب. A person has the means to go to Hajj this year. Let's say Hajj is in 3 months' time. A person has the means to go to Hajj. They're financially capable to pay for the expenses. They're physically able to go. From now on, as soon as they meet the conditions to be able to go to Hajj, it becomes wajib upon them there and there. Is that understood? What does that mean? That means if this person delays going to Hajj, let's say Hajj is in 2 months' time, they don't go to Hajj for whatever reason. And then they die in 6 months, meaning they die 2, 3, 4 months after Hajj. Are they sinful for leaving off that Hajj that they could have gone to? That is the athar, or that is the fruit or the thamara of that khilaf. Whereby the person that is commanded to go, if and should they leave off that wajib and they die before that, or they can't do that wajib, then they are blameworthy. And the opposite goes. If a person is not able to go to Hajj, we understand that he is commanded to go, lakin it is not wajib upon him. So if he goes, is his Hajj correct? It is not wajib upon him. He doesn't have the money, lakin he goes and gets a debt and he goes to Hajj. His Hajj is accepted, there's no ishkal in that. And he's not blameworthy. So that is some of the masail that I talked about there. For example, zakah. Allah Jalla wa Ala commands us to pay the zakat, sah? And zakat becomes wajib once you've had it for a year and it reaches the what? The nisab, sah? طيب. When it reaches the nisab, what happens after that? Let's say, Matha, what's today? Saturday. What's the date today? 8th. طيب. Let's say your nisab reaches this last year, July the 8th, or let's say July the 9th, you accumulated £10,000. You've still got that £10,000 today. That's exactly what? A year. So you've reached the hawl, the year, and the nasab is obviously 10,000, is way over. If we say al-amr al-mutlaq yadullu ala al-fawq, the plain command shows that you have to do it immediately, then for me, when are you going to tell me to pay zakah? Immediately, sah? You're going to tell me to pay zakah today. But if you don't agree with that, you say, la, it doesn't show this. Yes, we understand that zakah is wajib on you because you've met the hawl and then the threshold. Like, it is not wajib on you immediately. You don't have to do it now, whereby if you don't do it, you'll be sinning. That is the opposite to this qa'idah. So they don't accept that the command shows something is wajib al-fawq immediately. And there's difference of opinion among the scholars. Like in Shaykh Ibn Uthaymeen rahimahullah, he takes this opinion in the book. This opinion in the book. And in Usul al-Fiqh, take it from me. For now, don't look into the khilaf that is in the masail. Is that understood? Don't look into the khilaf that is in the masail. A lot of these masail, there's khilaf in it. For example, this one, there's khilaf in it between the Jumhur and other scholars. Same for this one as well. Like, the most important thing is when you're studying Usul al-Fiqh, especially when it's your first time or second time, that you tasawwur al-mas'ala, that you understand the mas'ala. Then you apply these principles that you learn in Usul al-Fiqh. You apply it where? In the Kitab and the Sunnah. In the Kitab and the Sunnah. So, mathalan, if you go to the Quran, look for all of these siyagh. Look for the siyagh. And you're able to pick it out. If anyone opens the Mus'haf now, on any page you will find what? Commandments. You'll find commandments. Therefore, pick it out, write it and understand it and look what it points towards. Is that understood? Any questions on Amr? Say that again? There's no ta'wil to say? That mas'ala, that's actually in the matan. We're going to get to that. See here, we said what? What are these? Siyagh al-amr. They show command, sah? Lakin, the context means a lot. Jazakallah khair for reminding me. And the Shaykh is going to mention it in the kitab. You're going to come across commandments in the Quran and the Sunnah. They're actually commandments. And you think, yeah, wallah, Ustad taught us this. It's a fi'l amr. But it doesn't mean a fi'l amr. It has a different meaning. اعملوا ما شئتم مثلا. Can the kuffar say, look, Allah Jalla wa Ala says, do what you want. We can do what we want. فمن شاء يكفر. فمن شاء يكفر, صح, the verse. Whoever wants, يكفر, let him believe. Is that a command by Allah Jalla wa Ala for you to disbelieve? No, of course not. So there are these commandments, we're going to see that there are things that they point to, that they show in other than that. إذا لم تستحي فاصنع ما شئت. Do that which you wish. Is that a command to say, لا خلاص, خلي الحياء, leave حياء alone and do what you want? لا. There are sighas that show that we're going to understand. طيب, any questions? So this is a summary, and obviously, inshallah, when we go into the book, study it a bit more detail. Now, we're going to move on over to An-Nahy. An-Nahy is literally the opposite to what? Al-Amr. An-Nahy is the complete opposite to Al-Amr. every mas'ala, the scholars say that every mas'ala that we studied for amr, it has a wizan on the other side. It has the like of it on the amr side, on the nahi side. طيب. Let's start with the ta'rif. قول is a statement. What does that exclude? Now that you've studied amr, what does it exclude? Gestures. So for anything to be considered a command in the Quran and the Sunnah, it has to be a what? A statement that is uttered. So مثلا, the Prophet ﷺ, if you come across a hadith where the Prophet did not do something as an action, that can't be considered a what? A nahi in the Quran and the Sunnah. That can't be considered a nahi. And also it excludes what? Gestures. All forms of gestures, any gesture, stand, sit, whatever, it doesn't come under a nahi. Dalabul kaffi, a word that utters or that commands, yatadammanu, it entails that you refrain from something.
Sorry, does exclude something that's written as well?
Qawl, does it exclude something that is written? Naam, it excludes something that is written. Lakin, again, it goes back to the siyaq. Yani in court, for example, it might be different. For example, if the judge is looking at a text message sent by someone else, then there's a qarina that shows that he told him to do something. Mathalan, you work at a garage, someone brings their car to you, and then you give them a quote, you say, to fix your tyre, it's going to cost you £6,000. And the person sends you a message, don't do anything to it, leave it as it is. That is considered as it's prohibiting you from doing what? From doing an action. Like in the Quran and the Sunnah, when we're talking about it, it has to be something which is a command. Written obviously in the Quran, that can't be considered in this. It doesn't come into this because the Quran is obviously written. Like it is the word of Allah Jalla wa Ala. Likewise for the Sunnah of the Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, because we don't hear the Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. Like we read his ahadith. Qawl. Excellent. Now, the Rasail, the Rasail, the letters that the Prophet ﷺ would send to the other muluk. Aslim taslam, sah? Accept Islam. That is a written form, lakin it is what? A command from the Messenger sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. طيب. قول. يتضمن طلب الكف. It necessitates what? That you refrain from something, don't do. What is that the opposite to? Amr, excellent. That is the complete opposite to al-amr. Because al-amr is what? Dalabul fi'l. Al-amr is dalabul fi'l. Do. Stand up. So there's a difference between stand up and don't stand up. With stand up, I'm telling you, stand up. I'm asking you to ijadul fi'l. Do the action. Like when I tell you what? La taqum. I'm asking you, dalabul kaf, a tawaqquf, imtina', to stay away from doing it. Is that understood? طيب. Dalabul kaf. What about, you can give me a siyaq where it is. Ijtanibu kathiran min al-dhann. Ijtanibu, stay away from. I'm asking you to what? To avoid. طيب. Is that a amr or nahi? Lahza. Sisters, is that an amr, is that a command or a prohibition? Huh? Amr, you're right, now, all of you. Huh? No, it's an amr, it's a command. Command telling you to stay away from something. That is a command. طيب. Maybe I should have asked that question when we come across this. Let's bring that hadith now. Let's mention that hadith now actually. Now, hold on. So it is obviously a command. A prohibition is telling you to not do something. طيب, put that to one side. How many masail do we have now? A qawl that tells you to stay away from something. بصيغة طبعا على وجه الاستعلاء, you obviously know what it means. يعني from a high authority. بصيغة مخصوصة, using specific wording. And that specific wording is what? Here. لا تفعل. لا تفعل. النهي has got a sigha, command, a form of prohibitions. Those forms of prohibitions, some are clear and some are what? Unclear. You understand them from the text. And the same goes for amr. I forgot to mention that. I actually mentioned in the last part, where there are certain words that show that something is wajib. How many siyagh did we have for amr? We had about 4 or 5. It doesn't mean they're the only wordings that show something is wajib. Like there are other words that show something is wajib, but it just doesn't come in the form of a command. Likewise here, we've only got one sigha, one form for a nahi, which is what? La taf'al. If we go to the hadith that we studied yesterday, the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam said what? La tahasadu. La is what? La nahiya. This fi'l majzoom. Lakin, that is the nahi. La tahasadu. طيب. ولا تناجشوا. Again, لا ناهية, and this is the فعل المنهي عنه. لا تناجشوا. ولا يبيع بعضكم على بيع بعض. ولا ماذا؟ ولا تدابروا. ولا تباغضوا. All of these commandments are clear nawahi. Clear nawahi. So clear nawahi or nahi has one clear form, which is what? La nahiya. Sisters, a prohibition contains one clear form in which the Sharia prohibits something, which is what? لا تفعلوا كذا. لا تقولوا. ولا تقولوا على الله بغير علم. صح؟ طيب. This is the sigha that is clear cut. There are other sighas that we're going to see in the book that also show something is haram. حرمت عليكم الميتة. Someone can't come around and say, listen, there's no لا تأكلوا الميتة here, so حرمت عليكم means that it is halal. حرمت عليكم أمهاتكم. Someone can't say لا, they're not haram upon us because there's no la here. Like in here, it means that بصيغة مخصوصة. It only has that la nahiya is a specific form of nahi. Is that understood? As for things that are haram, the hadith al-Qudsi, يا عباد إني جعلت ظلما محرما وجعلته بينكم محرما. So the words like muharram, or to specify something and say is khabith. Thamanul kalbi khabith. The money that you make from the kalb is what? Khabith, it is filthy. Someone can't turn around and say la. The Prophet did not say la tabi'ul kilab. Do not sell kilab. So it is permissible. La. The fact that it is khabith shows that it is what? Muharram. Like we'll see that in the book. طيب. That is the definition of an-nahi. The next mas'ala, so that was the first one, the definition. The second is النهي المطلق. النهي المطلق يقتضي التحريم. النهي, you understand what nahi means now. And you also know what it means by mutlaq, صح? What does mutlaq mean? Huh? Unrestricted. Yeah, nah, unrestricted. Meaning what? You translated it. There's no other evidence to show whether it is haram in a way that is binding or in a way that it is makruh or disliked. Just a prohibition. طيب. So the qaida goes, النهي المطلق يقتضي التحريم. If you ever come across a nahi, a prohibition in the Quran or the Sunnah, the asl means that it necessitates it is haram. The asl is that it is haram. Is that understood? طيب. So in order to call something makruh, what do we have to find? More dalil? Qarina. For anything to be makruh, you have to find a dalil. Just like sunnah. For anything to be a sunnah from a command, you have to find a dalil. مثلا kitaba, just going back to the amr. When you're buying and selling, what was the verse in Surah Al-Baqarah that it commands you to take witnesses when you're buying and selling? Huh? The shahada fil bay'. The ayah commands us to take a bay', to take witnesses. So according to the verse alone, it is a command and it is mutlaq. If we just take the ayah as it is, that means every time you want to buy a can of Coke from the shop, you need to go and get a what? A witness. You need to go and get a witness to bear witness, take testimony that you bought a can of Coke. Sah? Lakin, we have something that diverts that away from being a wajib to a sunnah, which is that the Prophet ﷺ, he himself ﷺ, done transactions in which he did not get witnesses. The same goes for the nahi. The asl is that every prohibition shows that it is wajib, it is haram to do. Lakin makruh comes from, مثلا, to standing up drinking. طيب? Drinking as in water, not drinking alcohol. Drinking water. Standing is permissible. Why? Because the fi'l of the Prophet ﷺ, the fi'l of the Prophet ﷺ that he drank standing up, shows that it is permissible to do. Like, it shows that it is makruh. Is that understood? طيب. Any questions on this qaida? النهي المطلق, a clear prohibition, يقتضي التحريم, necessitates that something is completely haram. Any questions on that? What tahrim? Can ever be mubah? Like there are levels of a prohibition. Okay? So for something to be, so the first level is at-tahrim. Okay? And that's where a nahy comes in. If we come down a level, it goes to al-makruh. Makruh, which is disliked. So if you come down from tahrim, it goes over to makruh. It doesn't go over to mubah. To the best of my knowledge, you won't find something which is mubah that was initially, or that was something that is mentioned that it is haram, and then it goes to being mubah. Is that what the question was? Mubah being, huh? It can ever be mubah. No, that's something else. Is that what you mean? Is it possible that it could be mubah? Allahu A'lam. If we mention examples, maybe. أحسنت جيد صحيح. You're right, it's true. جزاك الله خير. The hadith, كنت نهيتكم عن زيارة القبور. I prohibited you from visiting the graves. طيب. That was in the beginning of Islam. فزوروها فإنها تذكركم بالآخرة. أحسنت جيد. صح؟ لا حللتم فاصطادوا, that's something else that's going to come. It goes back to what it originally was. Nasakh, yeah, نعم. Nasakh, it could be. Like with this mas'ala here. Nasakh, we're going to study, is when something is abrogated. A ruling that was previously there, it could be abrogated. Like, for it to stay, apart from that example, like, even that is a nasakh. طيب. Any other questions on the nahy al-mutlaq? طيب. The next mas'ala, which is the third mas'ala, is النهي يقتضي الفساد. النهي المطلق يقتضي الفساد. Obviously it's a tasalsul. Now that we acknowledge that a prohibition necessitates that it is haram, the next step is to say that that haram, it necessitates that it is what? Fasid. It is what? Fasid. For example, shurut al-bay'. From the shurut of bay' is what? That it has to be something which is halal. Sah? Right. If I say, مثلا, I want to buy an item from you, and I've got 10 cartons of alcohol worth £300. Your iPhone is, mashallah, worth £300. Can I use this as thaman? Can I use this as money, wealth, to buy this phone? La. Why? Because it is a prohibition. There's a prohibition here. It goes into the actual ibadah, or the transaction. Goes into the transaction. Another example, selling or buying or selling after the nida al-jum'ah. Mathalan, the masjid is there, the khutbah is taking place. A person who is wajib upon sells an item to a person whose salah is also wajib upon. That bay' is called what? That bay' is what? Fasid. Why is it fasid? Because it goes into النهي يقتضي التحريم. First and foremost, النهي يقتضي التحريم. النهي, a prohibition. So we're prohibited from selling after the nida, صح? After the nida. Because we're prohibited from selling after the nida, if and should we sell, then it becomes what? Fasid. And it becomes fasid. Mathalan, who can give me an example? A prohibition or something which is milk. You don't own a car, like you sell it. Show your neighbor's car, manage to get the key from his kitchen, khalas, you sell it off. That bay' is fasid because it is not yours. It is not yours. Although it can be said that bay' fuduli, so yeah. Nikah, طيب, nikah. أي nikah بلا ولي. حلال or haram? شوف. أي nikah without a wali. حلال or haram? Haram. النهي المطلق يقتضي التحريم. لا نكاح إلا بولي. So it is haram. Do we agree on that first step? Now that we agree on the first step, the second step is أنه يقتضي الفساد. That it necessitates that it is fasid. So that nikah is fasid. And obviously that is for the two people that both acknowledge that wali is wajib. Is that understood? طيب. That's with regards to the nahi, before we go into it. Then the Shaykh rahimahullah, he rounds off this chapter of Amr and Nahi with two masail. Man yadkhulu fil khitab, who goes into the khitab? When you find the khitab from the Quran and the Sunnah, a verse in the Quran, or in the Quran in general, and the hadith of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, if you find the command, who is it referring to? When you find the prohibition, who is it referring to? We're going to see that who is being referred to is the aqil, the baligh, the mukallaf, the aqil and the baligh. طيب. لكن also من يدخل في الخطاب ما من شأنهم التكليف. So whoever is normally meant to be under that taklif, even the kafir comes under it. The kafir comes under it. So for example, the kafir is commanded with the salah. If he prays, it is not accepted from him. Lakin, should he die in that state, Yawm al-Qiyamah, he will be charged and he will be punished for not praying and not paying zakah and not going to hajj and not fasting. Is that understood? Because they come under the khitab. Allah is addressing them, وَمَا خَلَقْتُ الْجِنَّ وَالْإِنسَ إِلَّا لِيَعْبُدُونَ. Do they not come under ins? Bala, they do. So they're expected to do so. The last mas'ala that the Shaykh finishes the chapter off is mawani'u taklif. Mani' is something which prevents, it's a preventer, something which prevents the action going forward. So mawani' at-taklif, they are those things that prevent a person from being a mukallaf, a person who is expected to do and to stay away from. For example, a person who is young, a person who is insane, mentally not well, a person who is a mukrah, who is forced. So that is a summary of what we're going to see in the book, inshallah. That is a summary of what we're going to see in the book. Any questions? Like, and this is important. Make sure you write this down, because this is not in the book. Dalalatul Alfaz is what we've started this week. And what comes under it is the amr, a command, a nahi, a prohibition, am, something which is general, khas, something which is specific, mutlaq, a word that is mutlaq, yani unrestricted, and muqayyad, that is restricted. As for what they mean, inshallah we'll get to it when we reach that part of the book. Any questions on this? The what? Say that again. In here? A fasad, invalid, it's invalid. No, sorry, I should have mentioned. It is invalid, it is corrupt, it is not accepted. Any questions? Praying salah with stolen water, we're going to get to that. And we're going to, inshallah. But the problem with that is, according to the madhab that I and you know, the Hanabila mathalan, yeah? According to the madhab, not permissible. But the thing is here, the jihah is munfakka. There's no command saying, do not pray the salah with stolen water. You won't come across a hadith that states that, sah? Or a verse. Stealing is haram within the salah, outside the salah, with wudu and outside of wudu. So because the jihah is munfakka, then it is not accepted. Lakin, what can come under that as well is to pray, a man to pray in a garment that covers his awrah, that is haram for him to wear. Silk, mathalan. Bilash silk, leave silk alone. Najis. If a person picks up a thobe that is najis, and he's got about 10 other thobes there, or a woman picks up a hijab, she's got 10 other hijabs there, and she prays, or he prays in the hijab that is najis, their salah is invalid. Their salah is invalid because it goes back to a condition of the salah, and that condition is at-tahara. As for the the same goes for wearing a silk khamis, silk thobe. They say if it's covering your awrah. But they say having a silk imamah doesn't cause your salah to be invalid. Why? Because covering the head is not part of the awrah in the salah. Is that understood? It's haram, it's still valid, lakin with that, because the jihah is munfakka, she has to get a mahram. She missed out that condition, she did not get a mahram. She goes to Hajj, she's blameworthy for traveling without a mahram, traveling. But the Hajj itself is different in fakat al-jihah. The same goes for someone performing Hajj with stolen money. Is his Hajj accepted or not? Hajj is accepted. Huh? It is what? Yeah. It's not what? So are you saying that his Hajj is sahih or not? It is what? Not sahih. See that masala, yeah? Which is what? Alright, what about, yeah? What about if someone is going on their way to Hajj, yeah? And they stop by a restaurant. They eat £200 worth of food, the whole hamla. And then they run away, get on the bus without paying. Their Hajj, accepted or not? Why is it accepted? They've done haram, man. Just goes back to the normal khilaf that we just studied. It goes back to the normal khilaf.
وقل رب زدني علما